I'd like to welcome you guys to our event. This is for Christian Legal Society. I am Faithful Talabi, the president of the Christian Legal Society. And I'm going to welcome Andrew up just to talk a little about Mr. Nolan.
Thank you, Faith.
Hello, my name's Andrew Moore. I'm the incoming president of Christian Legal for next year. I hope you guys enjoyed food and beverages. Thank you, Mr. Joe. And I'd like to turn your attention to our guest this afternoon. He is the current president of the State Bar of Michigan, 82nd president, and he, since 2011, has chaired the board of directors of our law school. And this past year, 2016, was voted the 2016 Plaintiff's Personal Injury Lawyer of the Year by Best Lawyers in America in Michigan. And as of February 20th, has become a proud grandfather to a handsome and healthy grandson. So I could go on and on about all the honors and awards that he's accumulated throughout his illustrious career, but I'll keep it brief and say that for all the dedication and service that he's given to the legal profession, he's given tenfold both love and loyalty to his family, to his friends, and to God. It's with a great pleasure that I introduce to you Mr. Larry Nolan.
Good afternoon. How are you? I'm happy to be here. President-elect. Of course, our president of the law school, Don LeDuc, is here, and I see a number of other people, faculty members here. I'm glad to be here. Yesterday, I was one of the things about being 82nd president of the State Bar I take particular pride in is that I went to Cooley Law School, and one of the reasons that I got involved in state bar politics was because of my love for the law, but also my love for Cooley Law School and the mission in regards to having open admission policy. I am also chairperson of the Diversity Inclusionary Advisory Committee with Judge Cynthia Stevens from Detroit on the Michigan Court of Appeals. And one of the things is that we're stressing, and I don't know if any of you are aware of the Wolverine Bar Association's coming up with a program here, and you can get in touch with AJ. He'll have the dates on it down at the Renson. That's going to be a really nice event, and there's a brunch for the bar after that. Also, the Davis-Dunnings Bar Association, which is one of my mentors who gave me my first job, Stuart Dunnings, it was named after him and a judge named Jack Davis, is coming up on Friday night, April 28th, and I've been able to talk to Paulette Brown, who was the first woman of color to head the American Bar Association in last year, the 2016. That would be a very interesting event. She's coming in and she's going to speak out at the Lexington Hotel about her journey to the top of the American Bar Association. Some of the things I know that you are the Christian Lawyers Society, Legal Society, and I belong to a group of Catholic lawyers, the Diocese of Lansing, which encompasses about 11 counties, and we have about 115 judges that are members in those counties. We also have a number of members that are practicing Catholics and some not practicing Catholics, but Christian lawyers. I always wanted to be a lawyer, so it was easy for me when people said, why did you decide to become a lawyer? I just looked at them and I thought that everyone had always wanted to be a lawyer. And I realized that no, people didn't always want to be a lawyer all of their life. But going back a little bit of history, I applied to a couple of law schools, and was accepted at Cooley Law School in the first class back in 1973. So I was actually in the first class in 73. We had night classes. I worked during the day. And then I graduated in 1976 on the 3-year program. And I always believed that Cooley gave an opportunity for people to have an education that other schools did not. The traditional U of M, I think I was waitlisted at Notre Dame. I just wanted to go to law school. I didn't care where, I just knew that I wanted to go to law school and I wanted to practice law. And so I had the opportunity to come here and do that. We were guaranteed that we could take the Michigan bar exam, but we had no guarantee on ABA accreditation or anything else. And so with a faith and a prayer, we literally took our classes. I took them at night, working during the day, and my kids both said, "Dad, how did you work 8 hours a day from 8 to 5, walk across the street and go to class from 6 to 9? I said, "Listen, it was easy." And I said, there were people in my class that had a wife or a spouse, a husband, had children. An officer, Claude Thomas, was a police officer working a real job, and his shift got switched around every 3 weeks. So he was on days for 3 weeks, then midnights for 3 weeks. I don't know how he did it. He had 5 kids, but he did it. And so each one of you make a sacrifice. And you make a sacrifice because the end goal is graduating from a law school, having a law degree, and then practicing and going out or teaching or doing something with that education. But to those of people who respond that there's too many lawyers, let me tell you something. Michigan, I'm president of the State Bar of Michigan. We have 45,000 members. That's the highest we've had in the history of the State Bar of Michigan. But since 2011, there has been a decline nationwide of applicants from a high of about 90,000, I think, according to the American Bar Association statistics, to down to more recently it being about 45,000 for whatever reasons. So there's a slowing down of the number of people coming into the system. There's probably I think 208 ABA accredited approved law schools. When I went to school in 1973 when I started, or 73 when I started, I think there were 180. And so there's about 28, if that's correct.
Pretty close.
More law schools competing for the same students with less application. What does that all mean? Well, it means that when you graduate, there, at least during this specific period of time, there's less lawyers going to law school, but there's going to be a greater demand because within the next 7 years, we expect at the State Bar of Michigan to be the largest number in the history of the State Bar of attorneys of my generation retiring from the practice, and thereby 2 plus 2, you figure out that there's less lawyers entering, there's more lawyers retiring. Overall, there's going to be less lawyers. The need for legal assistance, in this country has never been more demanded. I'm working on a letter right now in regards to the State Bar of Michigan, where the current administration talks about cutting $54 billion in legal services funding for those who are indigent, who are poor, and who need money to go and hire a lawyer. What the present administration isn't dealing with, and it's not a political issue from my standpoint, there's a need for people to have lawyers that can represent them. There's a need for lawyers like you to give back. My first article as president of the State Bar back in October was an article on pro bono and doing pro bono work and why we as lawyers, have an obligation to remember where we came from. So I have a quote in my office that says, when you get there, remember where you came from. Remember where you came from. And give back and help those people that were in your neighborhood that were less fortunate than you, that are family members or friends. And so I think as Christian lawyers, I think you understand the need and the gift that you have, because it really is a gift. Education is a powerful gift, and you're going to have it and be able to use it. This $54 billion in funding, can you imagine in Benton Harbor? I got to go speak tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock at a program in Benton Harbor. And then I'm coming back to do the judging for the finals with Judge Marlinga for the high school state mock trial competition over at the courthouse for the state finals. Then I have a gala tomorrow night with our president. Excuse me. Yesterday I was down talking to the leaders in the law. I was down for the event that they had down there, and a number of our honorees and graduates, Mike McDaniel, Joe Farah, and Sharon Levine, were honored as leaders in the law. So of the 30, there were at least three Cooley grads that I'm aware of that were honored. But last night I was down at Calhoun County Bar Association and talking to that bar association. And so when I talk to different groups, including your group, the need and the demand for lawyers I stress. And I said when I first got sworn in on my inaugural address that I was going to stand up for lawyers and I was going to stand up for judges. See the difference between the criticism of the judiciary and criticizing somebody in Congress or somebody in the executive branch. I once, a couple weeks ago, had a federal judge tell me, well, I think the judges should be subject to criticism as well. Why should they be exempt from criticism? The president gets criticized, the senators get criticized, and the members of the House of Representatives get criticized. And I said, yeah, but he said, why shouldn't the judges be criticized? And I said, the one difference is judges can't respond. They can't follow up and have a press conference. If the case is pending for them, they can't defend themselves. And you're clearly seeing a movement that indicates that there are some areas that are, with the balance of powers, with the three branches of government, that are out of bounds, off limits, out of bounds. We really need to know that we have good lawyers out there. In Benton Harbor, over 65% of the cases in domestic relationships, not one, but both parties to a divorce are coming in without an attorney, unrepresented, because they can't afford it. 65% of the cases. You tell me there isn't a need for lawyers? There isn't a need for Christian lawyers? There isn't a need for giving back and doing pro bono and helping that situation? It's not a situation that gets better. Can you imagine now a judge has to tell two litigants in front of him, it's a judicial nightmare, has to tell those two litigants, I'm sorry, but I can't give you legal advice. You have to try and figure it out. Now he's talking to two people that can't even look at each other in a courtroom. How does that situation get resolved? It is a nightmare from the court's administration to try and guide uneducated, and I say uneducated, I didn't say dumb, I said uneducated people on how the system works, that you all are going to be spending the next 3 or 4 years learning about. That's why you're called a professional when you graduate and obtain a degree, because you have special knowledge beyond that which the ordinary person has. You have the special ability to take care of people and their legal needs. And I suggest that certainly if you follow this issue on the legal funding, that it will be a nightmare for the courts to try and administer justice, because the need is still there. People still need legal help, but the funding for legal aid offices for people that are indigent, people who are migrant, people that are immigrants, will not be there. Will not be there. So I will be following that closely in the next month here. There's a lot of good things happening within the profession. I'm proud to be a lawyer. I've been practicing 42 years now at the same location, on the same small office on Main Street in a little town, Eaton Rapids, just about 20 miles south of here. But I do things like, I've been on the board of directors now for a long time, and I've been involved in the state bar. When you become state bar president, the first thing you have to do is run for the board of commissioners, which I did, and that's a 3-year term. Now, you can't ever throw your name into running for an office after the first 3-year term, because you've got to serve on more committees, so you run for a second 3-year term. So there's 11 counties that elect the representatives for this district, and Clinton Kennedy, who's a judge, is one of those. Shauna Dunnings is the other, and myself. So you have to serve at least 6 years before you throw your name into the ring to run for treasurer. And if you run for treasurer, that's 7 years, and then you run for secretary, that's 8 years, and if you run for vice president, that's 9 years. If you run for president-elect, that's 10 years. It's an 11 to 12-year process. And the good thing about that is that when you become president, you've served on every committee of every organization within the bar structure, and you understand how it at least operates and what changes could be made or not made. One of the things that's interesting is I did this because I thought I could make a difference in regards to the law school. I did it in regards to thinking I could make a difference with regards to the private practitioner in the state bar of Michigan. And I did it because I love the practice of law. And I think if you have that passion for those things, it will serve you well, and you can make a difference. I wrote an article in the Bar Journal this month. It was called The USS Iowa Explosion, April 19th, 1989. 47 sailors were killed on board a ship called the Iowa, and there were 4 major ships that are 900 feet long. Think of that. Think of Michigan Stadium. That wouldn't fit a third of the Iowa into Michigan Stadium. It's 3 times that size, or Spartan Stadium. It's 3 times that size. I got involved in that case not because I knew the family from Eaton Rapids who lost their son, but because I went to church and sat in the first pew with their kids, because they had to pay attention. If you move back towards the middle, if you have kids, you know that the kids will misbehave. The further back you get, the worse they get. They sit in front, and the priest will call them right out, right, Patrick. So they sit there at attention. But to say I knew the Blakey family, I really didn't, except that in the Catholic Church, in our celebration of the Mass, you turn at a point in the Mass and say, peace be with you, with the family that's sitting. If you're in the first pew, there's nobody ahead of you. So you only have that to do in the last pew. Every other pew except the last pew, then you can be in the middle, you say, peace be with you to people in front of you, people behind you. But I knew the Blakeys because they always sat behind us. That's how I knew them. Only saw them on Sundays, never had any social discussion with them. And then all of a sudden this tragedy happens, and they came to me because they knew that I was a Christian lawyer, and I was in town, and they wanted some meaning to come out of this event. We spent a 6-year journey filing suit in the Eastern District of Virginia, in Norfolk, Judge Dumars, and then went to Richmond in the 4th Circuit on the Court of Appeals. Senator Sam Ervin's son, Sam Ervin IV, he was the chief judge. went to the Supreme Court and were denied leave on a challenge to what was called the Ferris Doctrine. But that all arose because I was a member of the community, Eden Rapids, living in the community, going to church. Not that you look for business, but that going to church, this family felt comfortable in coming to me with handling the case where their son was tragically taken from them. And so we as lawyers, we as Christian lawyers, you can look at the Ten Commandments and just about take anything off of the Ten Commandments and use it as the common law and develop from that all the other laws that exist. So we know that statute 403, parents B, on the larceny statute says, no, it's the larceny is the severance, which is the taking, right? And the asportation, the carrying away of the personal property of another with the intent to permanently deprive, right? That's what the statute says. But if you look on the Ten Commandments, it says what? Thou shalt not. So you can go to a lot of Christianity and a lot of biblical lessons where we are taught the same things that we're now taught in the modern era of legal representation. And if you have that foundation as a Christian, it's my firm belief that you'll have a great starting point for being a great lawyer with passionate resolve. So I just want to say thank you very much. I still enjoy what I'm doing 42 years later. I know I have to start slowing down because, as AJ reminds me, I now have a grandson. His first name is Nolan, his middle name is Robert, and his last name is Rose. And so my wife reminds me, because she leaves on Tuesday and doesn't come back till Thursday. So I got a grandson and lost a wife. But I just want to wish you all the best. And just if you have any questions, I know that you'll be solid. You'll be solid in your foundation for the practice of law and do what needs to be done. I once went to a funeral where there was a rabbi who gave the eulogy and said that the deceased person was a mensch, and when he described what a mensch was, he said that it was the person that does the right thing, knowing that he could do the wrong thing or the right thing, but does the right thing knowing that nobody is watching. Knowing that nobody is watching. And so, in your future endeavors, just always remember one thing. Do the right thing when you know no one is watching. Thank you. Any questions at all? Any questions? No?
Well, yeah, you can come up and ask him privately.
I had a question that I thought might be interesting for the whole group, and I don't know your answer, Larry, so I hope I don't put you on the spot, but has there been a time in your whole career where your faith was really tested, either by a client that you had, or a case that you had, or facts that led you to go, oh my God, I can't believe what I have here, and how did your faith get you through that?
Yeah, I would say daily.
Wow.
Daily. And it is my faith that does get me through that. Because sometimes there's no explanations. But I'm not like anyone. I mean, you know, I have all the same shortcomings that everybody has. We're human. And, you know, I have been dealing with anger because an arsonist burnt down a piece of property a couple weeks ago. And I've been dealing with anger because I can't figure out why the person did it. And it was a substantial loss in regards to personal property, things that meant a lot, that were stored. Nobody got hurt. And I want to find myself saying, I would like to be in a room one-on-one with that person, tell them there's no recording devices, and just answer a 3-letter question. Why? You could have taken anything in there, but why did you have to burn the whole thing? And so I'd like to know the answer. The obvious is that, you know, he's represented by counsel, and he's charged criminally with about 6 felonies. He burnt 5 other places in town. But I'd like to know the answer, and realistically, I probably never will. But yeah, I have anger, and I know that shouldn't be. Okay, I've got enough on my plate, and I should be worrying about other things. But I'm trying to resolve the feeling I have for that individual, because I'm sure that individual's not right. I mean, it's not an excuse that I was drunk or I was high or I was, you know, I'm sure that person's not right. But yeah, to be quite frank, you know, that's why I continue the journey. I have been blessed beyond belief. Both my parents, and I've told this, and Don's heard this before, both of them were immigrants, okay? One from Ireland, Northern Ireland, and my mother from Canada. I say they drove across a bridge, they didn't have to climb a wall. And they contributed, and they came to America for a better life. And for that, I'm thankful. And so I can't, if the good Lord were to take me today or tomorrow, I couldn't say that I had gotten shortchanged in life. I'm not volunteering to be on the short list. But I think that many of you will feel the same way. That it's a spiritual feeling that you have been blessed by your parents, by your background, by your religion, by where you are today, where you are sitting at this table in this room, listening to this guy. And I am blessed, and I remind myself of that every day. But I do have the same shortcomings that everyone else. I get angry, okay? I get mad. You know, somebody said, well, you know, maybe you should buy a gun to protect yourself. I said, no, this is why I shouldn't buy a gun. I don't want anything to do with guns. I don't own guns. I don't want a gun. But I think that there was a French philosopher who wrote, or poet, that adversity tempers the human heart. Adversity tempers the human heart, in which it finds its true meaning. And if you think about that, we've all gone through tough times. And so nobody likes to hear about your tough times. We've all had tough times. If you think that you're having a tough time, go to Sparrow Hospital and go through the children's unit where the cancer unit is. If you think you're having a tough time, volunteer sometime at the soup kitchen and see the people that have suffered addiction and have not been able to beat it. And think of how fortunate you are to be in a position where you're receiving an education in the law where you can help these people. And it's all right to have these feelings. You just shouldn't harbor those feelings, and you have to work those things out. So I do what I need to do in talking to somebody else that gives me a perspective. Well, you know, nobody got hurt. It's only money. It's, you know, but I do think that you feel, and you will encounter a time in society when you don't feel safe. For years, 42 years, my door is always open. I'm there at 8 o'clock at night. I'm there on Saturdays. I'm there at Sundays. 2 weeks ago, the day after that incident, my door has been locked, okay? Because my wife has always said somebody could come in and shoot you. Well, this guy didn't even know me, but yeah, I guess she's right. Somebody could come in and just decide they wanted to shoot somebody. But it's a terrible feeling, but we'll all have to go through it, and I think that's exactly where you are able to resolve it, Amy, is through your faith. And your faith tests you sometimes every day, and other times it goes for a long time without having to be tested. But I know we've all suffered loss, and if you can fall back on your faith, I think you're ahead of the game. So, thank you.